Well, before I begin, I think it's right today to pause and to be reminded that this is Memorial Fieldhouse, opened in August of 1951 and so named to honor the 53 Westminster men who were killed in World Wars I and II. Their names are memorialized on a plaque on the east wall. Many of them were Titan athletes, among them Dale Smokey Dunmeyer, who was a teammate of Buzz on the 1941 NIT team. As we celebrate the heritage of Titan athletics today, might we never forget those who made the ultimate sacrifice on other fields, on other days, to secure our freedoms, that we might enjoy the opportunity to study here, to play our games here, and to pursue our dreams here. President Richardson, I hope that you know how much we all appreciate how you have embraced and sought to promote and advance the Titan tradition. We know you get it. To all of you who spoke, my goodness, thank you. Thank you. One name that's not been mentioned is Rob Clement, and Rob deserves a lot of credit. I wanted everyone to know that it was his energy, his effort, and his vision that made this Heritage Center possible. I don't know what a brother says to his sis, but thanks. I'd like to speak to each one of you individually today, and this is the point where I get a little bit stuck, because this is overwhelming to me. I wanted to make particular note to my classmate John Still, whose health and prevents him from being here today, and his wife Mary Louise, my roommate Tom Ritchie and his wife Cindy, and our linebacker and my graduate assistant Leanne our linebacker Craig Schweiger. Leanne never played linebacker, but I'm sure she would have been good. And his wife Leanne, who was my graduate assistant, for your uncommon generosity, and to so many of you. I hope you all will read the plaque inside of the Heritage Center. To all of you, your generosity, your kindness, and your friendship, and particularly your presence here today is, I'd say, overwhelming, and if there's something that comes after overwhelmed, that's what I am today. You can start the play clock now, Jason. I'll try not to go into overtime. My dad lived by the principle that when you speak, it ought to be an improvement on the silence, and I hope these words are so today. Obviously, based on what my sister said, my mom had another principle. I first heard about Westminster at my church in Willoughby, and the first thing that I knew about Westminster was the fine music program. If you know anything about my musical ability, you will understand the irony in that. In December of 1969, I visited the college. I was awed as I sat across the desk from Dr. Burry as he sat in his office, his maple paneled office in the original field house down the hall. When my dad and I left that day, before we even got out of the borough, I didn't even know what a borough was then, I said to my dad, this is it. Little did I know how much that decision would impact my life. My relationship with Coach Burry moved from awe to fear to respect to friendship. In the summer of 1992, I was asked to write a tribute to Coach. Before this moment right now, only God and Coach and I knew what I'm going to say. And that was on my last visit to Coach at St. Francis Hospital as he lay in his bed. Through tear-filled eyes, I read that tribute to him. A few days later, that tribute became his eulogy. That remains my most sacred Titan moment. Coach taught us so much. Once an English professor went to Coach and told him that one of his players couldn't write. Coach Burry said to him, "When I got him, he couldn't run." The message was clear. Teach him. During my freshman year, we misplayed a block punt in a game. At our Sunday night meeting, Coach said to us, "That was my fault. I didn't teach you properly." The message was clear. He held himself accountable. I never heard a coach talk like that before. He was ahead of his time. The great Harold Davis once told me that he understood the sociological significance of playing a black quarterback in 1953. It can truly be said that the foundation of Titan football is the story of two Harolds. Once when Coach was asked which was his most successful team, he said, "Ask me in 20 years." The message was clear. The game of life was a lot bigger than the game of football. It can be fairly said that over the years, that some of our best students were athletes, and some of our best athletes were our best students. Memorial Fieldhouse was known to us as the house that Harold built. It's his steely will and his unflinching spirit that is the mortar of this building, and the towering shadow of his influence will forever be cast upon it. Thomas Carlyle, the Scottish historian, said, "Blessed is he who has found his work. Let him ask for no other blessing." Carol made reference to this. Starting in the 4th grade, I went to high school football practice. I went by myself because I didn't want distractions. My cousin Dave was a star, and I liked to watch him. And I fell in love with the game, and I was fascinated with the teaching of the game. I knew then that all I ever wanted to do was teach and coach. I later became an English major because I calculated that there weren't very many English teacher football coaches. I found my work as a 9-year-old, and that's all I ever did. When Bear Bryant left Texas A&M to go to Alabama, his alma mater, they asked him why, and he said simply, "Mama called." In December of 1975, I received a call. The voice sounded a lot like Coach Fusco, but I knew it was Mama calling. And this Mama was known as Mother Fair. Coach said there might be an opportunity to return to the college for 1 year as a graduate assistant. Sally and I were to be married in June, and there was an opportunity for her to be Gerb Miller's graduate assistant for a year. So that's how we started our lives together. We were paid $31.70 a week. Yet we knew a wealth that can't be measured. It remains a mystery to me to this day why I was given this opportunity. Surely there were better players, and surely there were smarter guys. I've said this to Coach Fusco privately, and I'm pleased to say it publicly. I'm so thankful that you granted me this opportunity. To believe in someone is a sacred thing. To grant someone an opportunity is also a sacred thing. The greatest joy and fulfillment for any teacher is to have his students exceed him. Coach Fusco succeeded Coach Burry and then exceeded him. And Coach, I know that Coach Burry knew that joy. By the way, that one-year arrangement turned into 41. My return to the college led me back to Coach Nicholson, my coach, my friend, my mentor, and now to be my colleague. Coach Nicholson has already been mentioned, is honored in the Showcase of Champions in the Heritage Center. I have 100 stories I could tell, but I'm just going to tell this one. I shared more time with him than any other person in my professional life. Over the years, we had an opportunity to speak at many coaching clinics. The last one was the Coach of the Year clinic in Pittsburgh. It was customary for coaches to ask questions after the presentation. Afterward, a young coach approached me and said, "During your talk, you said you and Coach Nicholson had been together for 30 years and never had a crossword between you. Is that true? Football coaches aren't like that." Well, it was true. Coach taught me as much about teaching as he did coaching. He taught me as much about dealing with people as he did defense. He always gave me more credit than I deserved. We enjoyed the highest level of personal and professional relationship. I had grabbed the brass ring of friendship. How blessed I've been to be touched by greatness. Coach Burry to inspire, Coach Fusco to grant opportunity, and Coach Nicholson to mentor. I've known few greater joys in my life than to put on my Titan jersey or my Titan coaching gear on Saturday morning, and this is the gear that I wore in my last game 23 years ago. I pulled it out of the closet. There's no greater joy than to run down the ramp and to hear the fight song that still stirs my soul. And always certain that the great gridiron theologian Vino Cook was right when he claimed that when God made autumn Saturday afternoons, he said, "This is when we'll play college football." I'm reminded of the Apostle Paul's words to the Romans when he said, "Jesus died for me even when I was not worthy." I'm familiar with the feeling of unworthiness. My Titan sports heritage, Mount Rushmore, is Dr. Burry, Coach Fusco, Coach Nicholson, Buzz, Ron, and Marge. So that would be, as the president said, that's only Burry Stadium, Fusco Plaza, Nicholson Showcase, Riddle Gym, Galbraith Court, and the Walker Center. And there's also the Christie Lecture, the Bleasby Colloquium, and the Jerb Scholarship. And now, the rightful crown on the Heritage Center, the just unveiled Jim Daffler PAC Showcase. I always thought that the naming of buildings, facilities, events, and programs was for other people's names. Among my many blessings here, those are not just names, they're my teachers, coaches, friends, and heroes. I don't feel worthy to even be mentioned in the same sentence, or even the same paragraph. That some thought that my name should appear here is a great honor. Another irony is this: where my name appears inside the Heritage Center is the exact spot where I said goodbye to my parents in 1970 when they dropped me off at football camp, because there was a parking lot then. And as Carol said, that occasion inspired my mom's words when she always said she dropped me off in 1970 and forgot to come back and get me. The uncomfortable position I find myself today is probably rooted in this legendary Huey family story. Our church was undertaking a building project. Grandpa Huey was a skilled carpenter. Everyone knew he had done more work than anyone else. But when the job was almost completed and a picture was staged on the front porch of all the people who had worked on the project, you'd not see Grandpa Huey. But if you listen to that picture, you could hear his hammer out back, pounding on some finishing touches. The lesson to us was clear, the message was clear. It was the effort, the work, and the spirit that mattered, not the credit or the attention. I think Grandpa Huey would have been a great teammate. We all knew what it meant when it was said, "I can hear Grandpa's hammer." So while the spotlight bends in this direction today, might it ever be redirected and forever shine, and shine with more intensity on the rich athletic tradition here at Westminster that was written and continues to be written by Titan men and women. I do have one sadness, and that is that Sally did not share my playing days with me. There was this one occasion, it was the Susquehanna game our sophomore year, it was a punt return, and I went to cut a Susquehanna player. It was legal then. In trying to jump over me, he kicked me in the head and knocked me out. Sally was listening to the game in her room in Brown Hall, and apparently the announcer said something like, "Dar Huey is knocked out on the field." To which Sally thought, "Poor Dar Huey." And perhaps, parenthetically, whoever you are. So that was it. I'm thankful she did experience the 248 games that I coached, and forever grateful for her patience, her grace, and her understanding of the many hours that coaching consumed. I did recently have an experience that indicated a few still remembered when I played for the Titans. I was uptown, I saw two old-timers saw me, and I overheard one of them say, "Yeah, I remember when old Dar played for the Titans." And then the other guy said, "Yeah, wasn't very big, but he sure was slow." Our daughter Bethany embraced all of football. Camp, practice, games, even watching films. Bethany was 9 years old. We were watching a high school game. The defense was having trouble stopping the run. They were playing a 3-deep secondary. The safety man had moved all the way up to the line of scrimmage in a zero free coverage call. Bethany looked up at me and said, "Daddy, I don't like it when the safety's not back there in the deep middle." I didn't like that either, but I knew she got football. The recruitment of Andy Blatt was special. Bethany and I saw him play 6 times his senior year at Greenville High School. It was a Sunday afternoon. I was sitting at the kitchen table writing a letter to Andy. Bethany asked me what I was doing. I told her, and she said, "Would it be all right if I wrote him a letter?" I thought, well, that's unorthodox recruiting, but give it a try. So she got out her colored pencils, wrote him a letter, complete with a drawing of a football field and number 18 carrying the football. A week later, Bethany got a letter from Andy Black, written in colored pencils. complete with a drawing. I knew then he was our kind of guy. When Bethany graduated from Westminster, I asked her who was her most influential person. Quick and certain, she said, Brad Tokar, and particularly his work with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Bethany has the only Tokar number 21, black number 18, autographed Titan mini helmet. She told me it has no price tag. Now, I know you all know a lot about Titan sports history, but did you know that Andy, Brad, and I hold the record for the most combined touchdowns scored? 123. The math is pretty easy. 68 plus 54 plus 1. As a young girl, our daughter Rachel, as my sister said, probably set the record for the most books read during Titan games. After one game, she reminded me of a most important message. It was important to me to be the same daddy that sat with them in the church pews, that sat on their bed and read them a bedtime story, the same daddy that was down on the football field coaching those big college football players. After one game, I asked her what she thought, and she said, well, it was interesting, but Daddy, I wondered why you were spanking all of those players. I realized that little eyes are always following us and reminded me of the words in this poem, in part, a careful man I ought to be, a little one follows me. I do not dare to go astray for fear she'll go the self-same way. The base in me she must not see, the little one who follows me. I must remember as I go through summer sun and winter snow, I'm building for the years to be that little one who follows me. I'm proud of both of you and the family teams that you have built. I'm thankful for 2 5-star recruits for sons-in-law. And this new team is a sweet team. Gemma at quarterback, measured and composed. Selah at defensive end, rushing the passer, creating excitement, and always telling the quarterback she was sorry when she sacked him. Willa was the center, always calling the huddle together, always wanting to call the snuggle play. And Pippi, well, Pippi's a free safety. Actually, she redefined the position as a very, very free safety. Now, I'm not the coach of that team, but I'm just a fan named Poppy. In a half century of good days here, December 5th, 1973 stands out above the rest. That was the day I placed a call to Ferguson Hall. The desk sitter answered in the custom of that era and dutifully buzzed room 226. It seems there was a male caller on line 1. The girl in room 226 was Sally Keener. And wouldn't you know, the one on the other end of that line was poor Darwin Huey. Apparently he'd regained consciousness. After an hour of mustering courage, I could have been penalized for delayed game. I asked her on a date to Romeo and Juliet. Of all the other blessings from Mother Fair, they all shrink in comparison. I found a unique person with no ego and no temper. The most disciplined, grace-filled, selfless, faithful person I've ever known. Once again, I was blessed beyond my worthiness. And I'm sure it's obvious to all of you, as we say down here in the field house, I way outkicked my coverage. And finally, in 1999, at another college event, I spoke these words in a speech. I love this place, it's a good place. Not because of the beautiful campus, the curriculum, or the football team. While those are important, her greatness is derived from relationships. As the challenges of the future mount, Mother Fair's greatness will be measured by our adamancy to never replace personalization with bureaucracy, our unwillingness to succumb to the ways of this world, our commitment to our historic faith foundation, and our courage to be different. It is then that we are the light on the hill in this valley. To all of you, my classmates, my teammates, my colleagues and friends, from the depth of my heart, thank you. To my students, you blessed me with the privilege to be called your teacher. To all the athletes, men and women in all sports, past and present, who strive to extend this heritage, and especially to all the football guys, the offensive guys, the special teams guys, and especially the defensive guys. The 2 and 3 men, the slide linebackers, the nose linebackers, the corners, the safeties, and especially 1 and 4 and 5 and 8. There are a few in here who understand that. You honored me with the privilege to be called your coach. The historic words in Old Main's Tower read, "We've all been warmed by fires we did not build and drunk from wells we did not dig." It's my hope and my prayer for all Westminster students that they might be blessed with heroes just as I've been blessed, that they might be warmed by fires prepared for them and drunk from wells dug for them, just as I have. And today, I want you to know that I feel a warmth in my soul, and I thirst not. As a matter of fact, my cup overflows. Amen. Thank you.